Hello and welcome to The Game Changers. I'm Sue Anstis and this is the podcast where you'll hear from trailblazing women in sport. A huge thank you to Barclays for supporting this series of The Game Changers, which features fearless women in football. I'm so excited about my guest today, the one and only Jill Scott. She's a Lioness with 149 caps for England and is now a player coach at Man City. I began by asking Jill about her memories of football growing up.
It was my life, really. I think now that I'm getting a bit older and I think about the time that I'm not going to be playing football, it scares us really, because from being the age of 5, 6, which is probably my earliest memories anyway, it was always about football. So yeah, there's probably a lot more memories about football than life in general, to be honest.
And how did you start playing originally?
So yeah, probably a similar story to a lot of the girls, playing with the boys at school. I was fortunate enough that I was school teacher when I got to about age 8. He let us play on the boys team. So that was a good opportunity for me, because I know a lot of the girls a lot of their pathways were blocked. So I still keep in touch with that teacher now.
That's good.
Just messaged us recently, just saying well done on the FA Cup and stuff. So yeah, just playing football with the boys, realised that I was okay at it, and just went from there really.
And how did it make you feel? How did you feel playing? Can you remember, thinking back, how you felt playing at the time?
It was difficult at times. I remember I say this story quite a bit, that a lot of the parents, I think, because you're a girl and you're beating somebody's son, then I think they get quite defensive. And I remember getting upset a lot of times on the pitch because they'd be like, kick that girl. And I was only 8, 9-year-old, and my mum, there was 3 of us at the time, and she didn't drive. So it meant that I had to get lifts off people to football. So a lot of the time I was there on my own, which was completely fine. But yeah, I remember getting upset. But I think just the love of the game, I always picked my football boots back up on a Tuesday and went training again. So yeah, I'm kind of appreciative for them moments, because it was tough, but it taught us very early on that I suppose life's not easy all the time.
Absolutely. And family life, so you say you kind of grew up with siblings, and were you quite a sporty family?
Yeah, well, yeah, so my dad used to play football. He got a few injuries over the years, and I think there's sport kind of on both sides. So there's sometimes a family argument about where you get the sporting gene from. And I'm like, just myself, I worked hard and created this gene. But yeah, the family loves football. My brother's actually a good player. He never really went on to play at a certain level, but he's a lot faster than me. I think that's a male versus female kind of genetic. So yeah, it was always in the family, and as I say, I was always supported when I went to play football.
Excellent. And you were a keen runner as well too, so tell us a little bit about that. I think people don't all know that about you.
Yeah, so running, it came from playing football. I think for anybody listening to this, when you go to senior school, if you do one sport, you're suddenly part of every single team. So I was on the hockey team, the badminton team, the running team. But yeah, I had quite a natural talent for running. And kind of before I knew it, I'd won the North of England Championships, cross country, Northeastern 1500 metres. And suddenly I was on my way to going to an English schools championships. And it got to the point where I got glandular fever, because I was racing, say, in a 1500 metre race on a Sunday morning. And then I was playing in a cup final on the afternoon. And I was just absolutely knackered. So I had to make a decision which one. And it was always going to be football, because I always remember saying to my running coach, what am I meant to think about when I'm doing these races? And he was like, the race, concentrate on the race. My concentration's not very good. So being part of a team suits me a lot better, if that makes sense.
Do you still run now? I guess it's part of your training, but you enjoy running?
Yeah, it's part of my training, I do. But through lockdown, I actually got back into it a little bit more, because it's hard to do your own training, because you're obviously on these football training sessions and there's not enough time to do extras. But I missed that competitive element over lockdown. So I was trying to time trial myself, and yeah, I got back into it really. Realised I wasn't as good as when I was 14. And everything hurts a little bit more. But yeah, I enjoy running, and I think that's probably why I've gone on to kind of have the career that I've had, because I have got a natural engine, but it's something that I've also had to work at.
Because you won, a story much told, but you won the mini marathon at the London Marathon when you were young as well too.
Yeah,
Can you remember that day? Do you think back and remember that?
We went down on the coach the day before, so I was only 14, went to London, stayed obviously with all these runners that were representing Durham County at the time. And yeah, so I ran in the race, and I always remember the race. There was about 500 kids there. And I remember there was some police tape as I came to what I thought was the finish line. So I've ran through this tape with my hands up, realised it was just the police cordoning off the area, and I still had another mile to go. So I absolutely died this last mile, and somehow I managed to win. But it was interesting because the marathon was obviously being aired on the telly, and the shot to my race just kind of at that point that I won it. So I think my mum was like, I think she's just won the mini marathon. And then I remember you get wrapped up in one of them big silver blankets, and I was just walking around London with this trophy. Couldn't find anybody I knew, and was just, it was a crazy day. Eventually I bumped into somebody and went home with this trophy.
Fantastic. And did you have any female sporting role models when you were growing up? So you talk about whether football or athletics or other things?
Paula Radcliffe, I did when I was younger through the running. I always thought she was just fantastic, and because I knew what my 1500 metre times were at that age, for her to do them times consistently, and I just couldn't believe it. So yeah, in football it was more that I had a male role model, so it was like David Beckham and people like that. But I think that's what's fantastic about the game now, that players have profiles that young girls can look up to. So yeah, I suppose times have changed, but yeah, David Beckham, I loved him at the time.
And the North East is really renowned for its football. So why do you think that is historically?
I think, it's just always been football. Like Newcastle versus Sunderland derby days are just absolutely massive in the North East. And I think wherever you go, it's football. So I remember my granddad got us a season ticket to Sunderland, and I just had a real passion for going to the games on a Saturday. Players like Michael Gray, Kevin Phillips, and Al Quinn. And I've been lucky enough to have conversations with them since that, and I'm still like, oh my God, there's Mickey Gray. Because as a kid I used to love watching him running up and down that left wing. So yeah, I think that's where a real passion comes from. And as I say, everywhere you go is just football. I suppose all kids play football. People say there's something in the water up there.
And where did you start your playing career?
So started it in Fulwell, Sunderland. So that was like playing for the boys team, and then I got told I couldn't play anymore, and my mum suggested maybe playing netball. I think I cried, which isn't anything like netball, but if you've seen us playing football, a non-contact sport would not be for me. And then, went on to find a team called Bolden Girls. That was where Steph Houghton played, so I met her quite early on. And then, kind of went from there to Sunderland, and then that's when I suppose my career started in terms of playing for the women's team.
And what are your memories of playing there as a young girl? So with Steph, was there as well at the same time?
Yeah, so Steph was a year younger than me, a year and a half younger, is she? Yeah, so she was the age group below me. But I loved it. We were just like loads of street kids rocking up the games in minibuses with ham and cheese sandwiches, packet of crisps. But we absolutely loved it. And then I remember getting back home, my mum just handing us a carrier bag and being like, take them socks, gym pads, everything off before you get in this house. So there were great days, and ones that when I think back now, how old was I? 9, so like 24, 25 years ago, that's just crazy to think.
How different is the experience of you as a young woman there to, I guess, those young girls coming through the academy now at Man City? How different does that feel for them now?
Yeah, it's so different. I think I look at them turn up, even the fact that they're all in matching kit, the opportunities that they have, turning up at places like City Academy, being able to train there, having a full use of the gym and everything like that. I try not to be one of them people that are like, back in our day, we didn't have this. You have to remember that everyone's journey is different. But certainly a little bit jealous of kind of the opportunities that they have, but also very pleased for them and pleased for the women's football to see how far it's come. And now they can come and they can get all that technical training 2, 3, 4 times a week. I look at like the under 10s, under 12s, and I think, wow, probably technically better than me now, to be honest.
I didn't realise. I look back. I didn't realise you went to Loughborough. I was at Loughborough, but obviously quite a bit before you were there too. So what did you study when you were there?
Yeah, so the studying, I went there, and if I'm being completely honest, I just wanted to play football. It was an opportunity, train every day, do weights, and kind of be like a professional footballer. So the studying, me and Carly Telford, who obviously plays for England and Chelsea and is my best friend, we shared a room at Loughborough, and we were talking about it the other day on England camp, and we'd go to weights at like 6 o'clock in the morning. You had to be at weights, and then we'd go back to bed at 7, and then our alarm would go off at 8. And there was so many times I was like, "Are we going in today?" And she was like, "No, we'll just go back to sleep." But somehow she managed to get a degree and I didn't. So yeah, probably I should have stuck in a lot more. I do say that to like kids now. I'm like, make sure you stick in when you're studying. But I suppose I haven't done too bad from it. But now that I'm in the end of my career, maybe a degree would have come in handy.
And what do you think you might have done if you hadn't continued playing football? What do you think your path might have been?
I always say it would have been to do with sport. Now that I'm thinking of it, I was going to say a PE teacher, but again, we were on England camp the other day, and I think we've been having more conversations within the girls because of COVID, and you're very restricted to what you can do. So it's actually brought us closer together in a way, because all you can do is talk to each other. And then I was sitting there the other day, I think I was with Lucy Bronze, Carly Telford again, and the under-19s were over the other side because you have to kind of separate. And I was telling them that I always wanted to be a red coat, at Butlins. them were the holidays we had. So the girls were like, "I dare you to go and perform one of the dances for the 19s. So I got them all up doing this Rory the Tiger song from Haven. So it was quite funny. But you know what? I remembered every single word with the actions and everything. So, yeah, it would have been something like that, like a children's entertainer or something.
It's not too late.
It's true. It's true. I'll just have to find a Rory the Tiger costume to fit, I think.
And what then took you to Everton? So you were still living and working in the North East at the time, I believe.
Yeah, well, I'd gone through Gateshead College, which again was a football college, and then they offered me the chance to go back as a coach under the coach there, who's still there now, called Melanie Ray, who I'd played at Sunderland with. So she'd offered us like a bit of a job, which was good, but I realised that I was going to have to be playing the league above if I wanted to try and get selected for England. And at the time, Mo Marley, who absolute legend, I couldn't say enough good words about her. She said that she was interested in his signing, and as soon as I heard that, I was straight on the M62 in my little Nissan Micra. I had my road maps, and I was like, "Mum, I'm going to Liverpool." I'm so grateful for my time at Everton. I made such good friends there that I still keep in touch with now. Rachel Brown, Lindsay Johnson, like they're still my best of friends. And yeah, my time at Everton was just fantastic. I think I was there 6 or 7 years.
And did you keep commuting through that time?
Yeah, so about 3 times a week. I remember, because I had to write it in my expenses, it was 176 miles there and 176 back. So I used to stay coach, and I used to get in trouble actually, because I'd have to like drop my shoulder a little bit earlier, else I wouldn't have made training. And Mel would be phoning us, and she'd be like, "Where are you?" And I'd be like, "Just on the M62, I was going to miss training." So yeah, I'd drive there, and then we always had the last slot of training because the boys' academy were training and stuff like that. So it was 8 till 10 training, and then I'd get home about 1:30 in the morning. So I'd do that like say twice a week, and then I'd travel down on a weekend for games. So when I look back at pictures, I looked absolutely terrible because the only food I was probably relying on was a Dairy Lunchable from the services. So, but I managed to get through it, and as I say, I had a lot of good friends that I was trying to just sleep over, or like they always offered us a place to stay. But yeah, probably the best times in my life when I look back.
And you didn't feel like giving up at any point? You didn't feel like it was too much? You just obviously were so committed to it.
Oh no, never. Honestly, I loved it. I think getting in that car and going to training, I just loved it. And I think, I was tired once I got there, but then once you start training, I think that adrenaline gets you through. And now sometimes when I think, I feel a bit tired today, I'm like, Jill, think about what you used to do. Like, it's kind of, everybody says, is training harder now? And it's not necessarily that training's harder. It's just that you get so much more help with everything around it. So the nutrition, the life balance, getting your sleep in and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's interesting actually to compare the two, definitely.
And tell me a little bit about your progress then in terms of playing for England. I mean, you first played when you were under 16, but so what happened after that?
Yeah, so I got selected for a camp when I was 14, 15. You know what, if I'm being honest, I remember Karen Carney was there, Eniola and Lugo, Leanne Sanderson, and I was the worst player there. I really was. I remember thinking, Jill, you thought you were an okay footballer, but once it opened it up to the whole of England, I was like, I'm not ready. So we used to be on like gym programmes, which you'd do back in Sunderland. And even if you speak to people now, I laugh and I joke around in the gym and stuff. And I think back then they just thought Jill's not taking it serious. So I never got selected again until I was 18. And that was a really tough period because I was around the likes of Carly Telford, Steph Houghton, and they were getting picked every month to go with England. And I remember like thinking I wanted to cry sometimes because I just desperately wanted to be there. But with the help of people like Mo Marley giving us an opportunity when I was 18, Alan Snowden, who was at Gateshead College, he just told us to keep going, keep working hard, and you'll get the opportunity. So, yeah, and then I got selected for the under-19s, and then it was just dead fast then. I played for the under-19s for a year, and then Hope called us up to the seniors when I was 19.
And did you keep that belief? So it's fabulous to hear those people were supporting you during that time. Did you believe that you would get there eventually?
I think what I've kind of learned from that is I used to just go training and just give it everything. And I think that's just been instilled in us over the years. And because I was never one of the best players growing up, I think that's kind of helped us so much. So even now, like, it's hard to look back and think about all the World Cups you've been to, Olympics, European Championships, because I still just feel like that girl that goes training and gives it everything. So I don't know, it's a bit of a weird one really, but I think that's just been instilled in us from early on, that believe in yourself, but also just control what you can control in terms of going to training and giving it everything.
Great advice for life, isn't it, really? And I think 2013, you moved to Man City. So you talk us through, I guess, that move from Everton. You've been really happy there.
Well, a lot of the older players had kind of started to leave who were my friends and stuff. And I was going to maybe move the year before. I had a few opportunities to go abroad, but at the time, the England manager was changing. And I thought if I maybe go abroad, it might kind of put us out of the picture for England. So I've always prioritised playing for England because that's what I've always wanted to do. So I remember getting the opportunity to be captain at Everton, and I thought, this will be good for us. We had a lot of younger players coming through, Nikita Paris, Alex Greenwood, Tony Duggan, and it was really good for us to get that role. And then I think after that year, I just felt like the time was right to leave. Manchester City, just up the road, got in contact with us and said they were starting this whole new programme full-time. And I think just the opportunity to train full-time. I was a bit frustrated at Everton because I didn't really know what to do with my days. So I was kind of like training, but then not really working. So they were still training at night. So it was like filling my days. Whereas the opportunity to actually train in the day, everybody said that they're moving for the money. I can tell you now, I didn't get any more money for the move. It was just totally about the training.
Yeah, life and lifestyle and balance of life, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, exactly.
And you played for Team GB at London 2012. So what are your memories of that? An incredible experience.
Yeah, I think out of all of the tournaments I've been to, that was my favourite by a mile, just especially because of my running background, just suddenly being around these incredible athletes, like walking around the athletes' village, and you can't help but be a bit of a fan. You're like, oh my God, there's Tom Daly. Oh my God, there's Mo Farah. But you have to like kind of act like you're on the same level. So I did manage to get a few selfies, but yeah, it was just, it was such a good experience. And that's probably why I was a bit gutted about us not being able to go to the Olympics the following 4 years, and then after that because of different reasons, because I really wanted the girls to have that experience of what it's like to be around them individual athletes, because they're just so focused and you can learn so much from them. And then we had the opportunity to go to different events, and yeah, it was great. And I'm sure all the other girls would say exactly the same.
And do you think it will be very different in Tokyo, having been at home games before?
Yeah, maybe. I think with the London Olympics, what was so good was that it was in London. I remember we had about 82,000 at our game against Brazil. And I'm not saying that everybody bought a ticket because they wanted to be at women's football. They just wanted to be at the Olympics. So, yeah, I think it will be different. It's still kind of that big question as to whether it'll go ahead. I really hope it does. And then obviously just trying to get yourself selected for it. There's such fantastic talent across Scotland, Wales, and all kind of the places that are involved. So it'll be very difficult to get selected. But I think the players that go, they'll have the best experience of their life.
And you mentioned that being like a fantastic championship. Well, you've won so much silverware across your career. What is the most memorable win? Do you look back and think of something that means the most to you in terms of a win?
I think it would have to be that league win with Manchester City, just because probably started playing for Sunderland women when I was like 14, 15. And I think it was fast forward 15 years. That's how long it took us to win that league title. So, yeah, I think they say good things come to those that wait. It certainly was one of them moments. But, yeah, kind of getting my hands on that trophy after all that time. There was a time at Everton when we played Arsenal and all we needed was 1 point. It was the last game of the season and we got beat 1-0 and I was absolutely devastated. So, yeah, I think to win that was great, and that's something that I'd definitely like to get my hands on again.
And was it your fourth World Cup last summer?
Yeah, fourth, yeah.
So how different did that feel from previous championships and having, I guess, done it across your career in different ways?
I think this one, I felt a load more pressure, I think. Being an older player, I think performances are then expected of you. And there was a lot more hype around it, I think, with every tournament, because the game's growing. There's then so much more kind of media involved and stuff like that. But I was pleased with how it went from an individual kind of perspective. I think it was so tough, though. I think to play, I think I featured in like all of the games. So I think it was like 7 games in such a short space of time. And if I'm being honest, it probably took us about 4 months to get over it. I was just mentally drained, physically drained. And I think when you work so hard for something and you want something so bad, and then just in an instance, it's just taken away from you. I think that's probably one of the tough things for football, because then the next thing's just round the corner and you're probably just so knackered. But Phil Neville was brilliant with me, and he said the next trip after that, he was like, I'm just going to leave you at home, just kind of get yourself back together, concentrate on club football. And I think that's why I think he's such a good manager, because from that, I was going to say man management, maybe I should say woman management point of view, he really does understand that side. And I think in women's sport, that is so important.
You actually preempted my question there, which was going to be, do you feel more pressure playing for England now than you did in the days of playing for Hope Powell, etc.? So that's interesting. I spoke to Rachel Yankee for this same series. She said she never enjoyed that kind of celebrating her 100th cap before the game itself, because she was always conscious of something could happen, falling off the coach or whatever, before she got onto the pitch. And I wondered if you felt a bit like that last week when you're kind of about to get your 150th. There's all this celebration about it before it actually happens.
Yeah, you do. Well, they asked us if I wanted to get like a photo like the day before or 2 days before or something. And I said to them, I want to wait till it actually happens, because I did have in my mind that maybe it's not going to happen. And I think, like Yank said as well, like I remember before my 100th, I was on my B licence course, and I'm going to get in trouble now. No, I won't. I remember City said to us, like, make sure you don't join in the sessions, because it's just with like a random group, predominant men. But if you don't join in the sessions, you're kind of known as that player that didn't. And then when you want people in your session, it kind of looks bad. So I played every single minute. I was on the AstroTurf. I'd get a train and they'd go, did you do anything? I'd be like, no, I just watched from the side. But it was the week leading into my 100th cap, and I was convinced something was going to happen. So I do totally understand what you mean. Like, you just kind of want that achievement. And I got asked recently if I was like upset about that game getting called off, because if I'd featured, I would have got my 150th. But the game was never about me getting my 150th. It was about us playing Germany, testing us against the best, hopefully getting a result. And I think I just said, if you want to achieve something that I think there's only Farrell Williams has actually achieved it, then it's never going to be easy. And that's one thing that I've never had anything easy in football. I've always had to work for it. So I wasn't shocked that it wasn't a smooth road. I think this is 9 months wait so far. You get a baby quicker than that, actually. But hopefully I will get it one day.
For those of us, I guess, that haven't played sport to your level, clearly, what's it like spending a game on the bench? And, how does that feel to, as happen this weekend almost, to not be there and be part of a team, but you're not getting out and playing?
Yeah, it's hard. Like, I think I've experienced it at England over the years, but at club football, this is the first season that I found myself in that position. And yeah, it is. It's really difficult. Like, I've still got that drive where I don't want to feel like I'm slowing down. I think sometimes people judge you because of your age, but I still feel fit. I still feel fresh, and I still feel like I can compete at this level. So yeah, it is difficult. And I suppose when you're perceived to be the joker of the team, then people just expect you to be in the changing rooms and just dance around and be stupid. And inside you're probably disappointed that you're not playing. But I think in them moments, that's when you show that you've got to be a good person and be a good character and get around the team. So yeah, I was disappointed not to get on the pitch at the weekend. But I remember waking up that day. Well, of course I remember, it was like 2 days ago. So if I didn't, then that'd be worrying. But I woke up that day and I said, look, as long as we win today, like, that's the whole aim of the day, and we did. So I was very happy at the end of it.
You have had a couple of red cards. How does it feel in that moment when that kind of happens on the pitch for you?
Yeah, I've actually only had 2 red cards, which people will be very surprised at, because I suppose I am competitive in a tackle. The first one was against Arsenal, and it was a red card. I was captain of the game. I remember, I think Steph must have been injured, and I think I just probably were 1-0 down, and I probably put too much pressure on myself and just reacted silly in a moment. I was gutted about that one. I was really gutted, like devastated. And I remember I had to ring the England manager, who was Mark Sampson, the next day, and just apologise, because it was like bad behaviour. But the one that I got in the Community Shield, and I have said this to the referee, I still don't know if it was 2 yellow cards, and I still think it was a bit harsh. So I think with that one, I kind of accepted it a bit more, because I don't know, maybe this is me kind of being me, but I didn't think that it was a red. So I was just like, it is what it is. And then I remember walking into the changing rooms, and the kit woman followed us down, and she was like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, but I couldn't watch the game. I didn't know the score. Obviously, sometimes you can hear the crowd. So it's like, if the score, then but I couldn't hear anything. So yeah, I was obviously disappointed, but I think I got over this second one a lot quicker.
And your colleagues and your coaches talk a lot about you as being the kind of glue that binds the team together. That's kind of a really important role that you play. Is that just something that's very natural to you in your personality?
Yeah, I think so. You know what? I just love being around people. Like, people just fascinate us, and I think that's where I get my energy from. So I don't like spending time on my own. And I think even at school, I was always known as the one that distracts people. But I do like to have a laugh, and I think I'm quite good at like sensing how people are feeling. So if somebody's down or something, then I think I can sense that. And probably people think I just drink so much coffee, but I use it as an in to be like, do you want to go for a coffee? Because I can probably tell that a little conversation might help. And I think over the years, especially in football, I've realised that conversations can help so much. Like, tell you a quick story that me and Karen Carney, we went to Loughborough together. We were at England for about 5 years together, and we were always just teammates. Like, some people you bond with a lot more than others. And I remember in a moment not being selected and being really upset, and she was the first person I bumped into. and she took the time out to speak to us. And that moment, now she's like one of my best friends. And I think I just realised how much communication can help in certain moments. So I was so grateful for her just taking a bit of time out of her day and giving us advice, that I think it's some experiences that you then try and help others.
That's really interesting, because actually Yank said the same thing about Karen Carney as well. I need to have her on the podcast, don't I?
Yeah, she's lovely. She's lovely.
And clearly you are a fantastic player, amazing player. What do you think it is that's made you have such success in terms of your career? How much is about physical ability, do you think, and how much is mental strength and ability too?
That's a good question. I think obviously having a natural engine's always helped us, and being naturally fit. I think recognising what my weaknesses are and not being afraid to say that and work at them. And yeah, mental strength is a massive one. I've seen so many players over the years that were technically better than me, and probably didn't kind of go on to the levels of, say, England. And I do think it was probably because of the mental side. So that's why I think it's so important when I talk about communication and stuff like that. I think that can be the difference sometimes, the players that have that mental strength. But then it's probably also about kind of players going through things and experience. Like, you can give advice as much as you want, say, to younger players, whatever, but sometimes they have to make mistakes so that they then think, right, I can't do that this week, else I'm going to play poor on a Sunday. So yeah, I think it's a bit of everything really, and just being honest. I think being honest, if you haven't had a good game, why did you not have a good game? Always looking at yourself first, not blaming other people. And yeah, I'd like to think that just by being a good person as well and working hard, I think that's probably been the main ingredient.
And you've coached for much of your career. So what is it you think that makes a great coach in your eyes?
Yeah, everyone keeps saying, are you going to be like a main coach when you're older? But I need to see how good I am, actually, to be honest, because I've coached a lot of kids, and that sometimes can be a lot of tying shoelaces and toilet trips. So I think being a good coach, again, when I start my coaching journey, I think it'll be about starting from the bottom. So a bit like my football, like you have to learn, and then you have to build your way up. You can't just start at the top, because then you've got nothing to really fall back on. But a good coach, understanding the game, knowing how you can help players. And then I've said this recently, actually, there was a couple of coaches in sessions where I've just appreciated the honesty. So maybe the girls have asked them something and they've been like, you know what, let's go away and speak about that in greater depth. Because I think sometimes, like school teachers, they get asked something and they think they have to give an answer there and then. But I really appreciate when coaches are honest and go away, solve the problem, and just admit that maybe they didn't know in the moment, because we're only humans and you don't know everything.
And what's your role now? So you've got this new role for the next couple of years in terms of a bit of a player coach. So what is that role? What does that entail?
Well, it's been a bit difficult in the beginning because I'm obviously still playing, so I can't really coach whilst I'm in the sessions. But I've had a few good conversations with like our development manager recently, and I'm going to start going in and doing some sessions with them. Obviously, under the current restrictions and stuff, it's hard to kind of mix outside your bubble. But I think I've been trying to develop in other ways, like getting access to sessions and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that'll be a good opportunity for us to maybe work a bit with the under 14s, under 16s development girls, because then I feel like I can help them with the pathway into the first team. So I think that'll be more so where it kind of lies. But yeah, it's been difficult at the minute. For example, say this week they're training Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we came back from Wembley Monday. We've got a game tomorrow. And then Friday is the day before a game. So it's trying to find that balance. But yeah, I'm sure I'll be doing a lot more, well, hopefully soon.
And you've mentioned your kind of future. Does it scare you at all to think about that next stage of your career? Or are you kind of very focused on the here and now and playing?
Yeah, I do think about it. I do think about it because I know that it will come at some point. Of course it will. I can't play football forever. But I think it quite excites us as well. Obviously, you've always been known as Jill Scott, the footballer, but I do think that, like, what else can I do and, like, test myself and challenge myself. But I suppose the good thing for me is that because I do have a lot of the older girls that I'm still in touch with, I think they'll always be willing to give us advice, the likes of Laura Bassett. I know I could speak to Rachel Yankee, Rachel Brown. But yeah, I think it excites us in a way as well. But I haven't got a plan. I'm this person that I just don't seem... I only plan for the next day. So like going to the fact that we've got a game tomorrow. So maybe I'm going to sit down and put a better plan into place. But I think because in my head I still feel 18, 19. I just want to keep playing at the minute, and I still believe that I can.
And we've obviously potentially got an Olympics, a home Euros and a World Cup in a 3-year cycle. So how important do you think that could be for women's football?
Oh, it's so important. I think, like I touched on before, the Olympics, all the sports across the Olympics, how much kind of interest gathers around it. I think if the team can go there and do well, then yeah, the whole nation will get on board with them. And then you speak about home Euros. My first tournament I went to was the Euros 2005 in terms of as a supporter. Oh, it was just brilliant. There was like 35, 40,000 people at the Etihad, and this is going back 15 years. So to think of all the crowds that'll be gathering, I just feel like we need to go there and really do something special because it's a massive opportunity. And then you speak about a World Cup. I think everyone's going to get behind a World Cup. We've been very successful in the last two, obviously a bronze medal and then narrowly missing out on a final in the most recent one. So yeah, it's exciting. It's so exciting. And I think at the moment we're just grateful that we're still playing, especially because of the current situation. But I think the girls are all training hard, getting their head down because the next 3 years is vital to the women's game.
Absolutely. And it's been a really big year for you. You got engaged. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you were also awarded an MBE as well. So how does it feel to be recognised in that way?
Yeah, I think because I literally the day before I was going to go and pick it up, that's when lockdown happened, the original lockdown. So I kind of keep forgetting about it because I never actually picked it up. So hopefully they're keeping it safe for us. But yeah, it's one of them moments where you have to pinch yourself, really. I think it's probably things you'll reflect on a little bit more when you play. But to see the players that have got them, Farrah Williams, Faye White, players like that, them were always players that I looked up to when I was growing up. So to see my name alongside them at any time makes us very proud. And I know the family were really looking forward to that day. So I think they'd bought the fascinators and everything. So I was disappointed that I couldn't go and get it, but hopefully there'll still be an invite to the Palace. In terms of engagement, that was literally a week before lockdown as well. So I reckon if I'd asked after lockdown, when she had to spend about 6 months with us, I think the answer might have been no. So
got in the right time. I love that. It's brilliant. And when you were growing up, did you ever think that women's football would be where it is today?
No, not at all. I think I didn't try and look too far ahead. And I always speak about my mum when I say this because she must have thought I was crazy because I was like, I just want to be a female footballer. And she was probably thinking third child syndrome. She's a bit crazy. She's off her head. There's not even a career path that exists, I suppose. But the fact that she always backed us, she never said not to do it. And she just, you know what, the best thing my mum's done is probably just letting us get on with things, not putting us under pressure. I used to get home, we didn't have to talk about football. It was just kind of back to being a kid. And I think I never thought the game would get to where it is now. And it's hard because sometimes it just becomes your reality. Like you're just playing football, you work and whatever, and it becomes your reality. But sometimes when you pause and look back, I think we always want more. We always say like, and that's just natural as humans. You get one car and then 2 years later you want a better car and you always want better. But I think with women's football, we have to sometimes just pause and just be so appreciative to everyone that's been involved, everyone that's drove the game over the years and think, you know what, we've done it to a certain extent. Yeah, I believe there's so much more to come, but I think a pat on the back sometimes goes a long way.
Fantastic. And finally, just in terms of girls, young women kind of coming through now who are starting out their football careers, any advice that you would offer to them?
I think probably just don't think that you have to conquer the world at the age of like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think just go out there, make sure you're enjoying it. I think more so for parents, let them enjoy it as well. Don't get too focused on performances and results and driving them, because I think at such a young age, they just have to enjoy it. That's all they have to do. Sometimes I do soccer camps and the parents have gone, we've had them out for a run at 6 o'clock this morning. And I'm like, the kid's not going to want to do it by the time they get to 13, 14. So my biggest bit of advice would be enjoy your training, but when they have days off, let them switch off from football, go to the cinema, see the friends, and just let them be kids, really. And then for the kids themselves, just if they work hard, opportunities will come up. I'm not saying that every child out there is going to have that opportunity to play for England, but you learn so much from sport. You meet people, you learn how to be gracious in defeat, you learn how to win at things, and I think them things in life are invaluable. So yeah, I think sport's fantastic. And look, it's not always about being the best. It's just about getting the best out of it. So I think that would be my advice. Just enjoy it.
Thanks so much to Jill for taking the time to talk to me. I'm excited to see where her career takes her in the future. Thanks also to Barclays for their very kind support of the Game Changers, and to Sam Walker from What Goes On Media, who does a great job as executive producer of the podcast. That was the final episode for this series, but you can find out more about all 49 of my previous guests at fearlesswomen.co.uk. Other incredible athletes who have featured in the past include Catherine Granger, Maggie Alfonsi, Sarah Story, Kate Richardson-Walsh, Pamela Cookie and Claire Connor. You can listen on the website or find the podcast in all the usual places, including Apple, Spotify, Google and Acast. We look forward to bringing you more of the stories of trailblazing women in sport in 2021. The Game Changers. Fearless Women in Sport.